All right. And then this needs to be able to see those people. Where does she usually do that?
I have a platform that goes on this, but I didn't bring it. It didn't occur to me that we didn't want a laptop.
I can't actually put that on top of there, right? Is the music stand for anybody?
That stand made just to be for the computer.
There are 11. I don't suppose you could. Or I could do that actually. Testing audio, test.
All right, everybody, we are going to go ahead and get started. So if you could please find a seat. Oh, and I'm already breaking my cardinal rule of watching out for the people who are with us at home. Hi, everybody. Thank you all for joining us for the November monthly meeting of the Arlington Democrats. Yeah, round of applause for this outstanding group of Democrats. I am Jill Piazzo, and I truly do have the honor of being the chair of this amazing group. And it is an honor. It is an honor standing here with you tonight after yesterday's disappointing election at the top of the ticket. I just want to be very clear that I could not be prouder to lead this organization of fine Democrats. Despite what happened at the top of the ticket, let's be clear, Arlington had a huge day yesterday. We beat a 30-year turnout record for a governor's race. Beat it! Blew it out of the water. That's because of you. When you look at the Democratic turnout, yes, we were a little bit shy of where we were in 2017, but we were above where we were in 2013. That is a solid performance by this group of people because you worked every single day of this election. Who knocked a door? Who made a phone call? Who sent a text message? Who poll greeted? Who delivered a messenger? Who was at the early voting site forever? Who was driving people to the polls? All of these things Arlington Democrats did, and every single one of them contributed to the bottom line yesterday. Thank you so much. As a result of those efforts, we reelected all of our House of Delegates representatives. I think that they will serve as the front line for us in Richmond, and we're really excited to be bringing them back to the House of Delegates. We also elected for the first time a House of Delegates member. So we have 4 great folks who are representing us in Richmond. Let's give them a round of applause. Patrick Coe, Rick Sullivan, Alfonso Lopez, Elizabeth Bennett Parker. They are going to be the fighters that we need in Richmond during this difficult time. We also reelected a truly wonderful county board member, Takis Karantonis. So glad to have you back on the county board. And we're super excited that you will be joining in our county leadership by newly elected school board member, Mary Cadera. These are important victories that would not have been possible without all of you, and I know that each and every one of these candidates is grateful for your work. Arlington did its job because of you. The numbers prove it. Your strategy, your determination, they were all on display yesterday. But it must be acknowledged that Democrats fell short elsewhere in the state, and they did so despite the Herculean efforts of folks in our Beyond Arlington group, ably supported by Blue Families and Arlington Young Democrats. Those folks went to so many swing districts, knocking on doors, supporting our neighbors, trying to get the Democrats in those districts over the finish line, and there were critical results that they delivered. I have no doubt, Rose, no doubt, that Dan Helmer and Wendy Goditis owe their seats, owe their re-election to you and the entire team of Arlington Democrats who were in those districts week after week after week. Thank you. Thank you for that very hard work. We came up short last night at the top of the ticket, but we must not be short-sighted. More than ever, there is work to be done to advance democratic values in Arlington and across the state. We must protect the tremendous advances that we have accomplished thanks to Democratic leadership over the past few years. We have to hold the line, and Arlington Democrats are going to be the ones doing that. Our elected officials that I just mentioned, they are going to be on the front line, right? Especially the ones who are in Richmond, and I know that there are a couple here tonight from the House of Delegates to the State Senate. They must hold the line on our democratic progress over the past couple of years, and I know that they will do it. I saw Senator Aepi. From me, from all of you, Arlington Democrats will be there to protect our rights, to help you to protect our rights in Richmond. So thank you, and thank you to everyone for that work that you're going to be doing on the policy front. There's also work, though, policy front, that we can do right here in Arlington. I firmly believe that Democratic leadership is on display here in Arlington. We can demonstrate here in the county what sound stewardship from a democratic value perspective can bring. And there are ways that we can get involved directly here to make that demonstration. Join a commission, right? Help our county government to enact those democratic values and policies that we want to see. Help Arlington to be that example for the rest of the state and the country. So if you came here tonight thinking, oh man, I'm really upset about what happened yesterday. What's next? What do? I strongly encourage you to get involved at the local level so that we can show what democratic leadership looks like on just like the everyday level, person-to-person level. Please do that. It is well worth your time to be supporting great county board and school board members who undoubtedly are going to need our backs. You need us to have their backs there as well. But don't use all of your time in the commissions because, folks, there's work to be done on the electoral front as well. I know that you are tired, and it is right and just that you take a moment to take a deep breath, to take that time that you need for self-care, because I know how hard you work this year. But really, just a moment, because we always have an election in Virginia, and next year is no different. We have another election where Arlington Democrats, we have to show up, and it is a really important election. It is the midterms. If we can take any silver lining from what happened at the top of the ticket yesterday, it is that it is a wake-up call for what we need to do next year. We can take nothing for granted on the electoral front. So take that deep breath, take the nap, you surely deserve it, and then let us regroup, let us figure out what the path forward is for Democratic success in Arlington, in Virginia, and beyond, because the stakes will be extremely high next year as well, and Arlington will be looked upon to deliver, and I know that we will deliver. I know that this group will rise again, that we will be at that front of the next blue wave that will bring Democratic leadership, that will keep it in our House of Representatives and in all of the other races that are going to be on the ballot next year. That's what's at stake. I know it's tough. I know to pick yourself up every year and do this again is hard. I salute you and applaud you for your grit. That is what we need in this moment. I think that Arlington Democrats is as strong as our members, and I look out in this group. People and dogs and all, and I think that we are the strongest Democratic organization, certainly in the state. I think our results yesterday proved that, possibly also in the country. If any group of people can play that outsized role in our midterms next year, can play the outsized role in our county government, can play the outsized role of backing up our legislators in Richmond, it is this group of people. We will build on the lessons of the election this past year, and we will move forward. We will move forward on the electoral front. We will move forward on the policy front. We are the ones that we have been waiting for. We always have been, and we always will be. So we will take this meeting to reflect on what truly have been volunteer heroics in Arlington this past year, and I think the results yesterday prove how heroic it was, and I want you to celebrate the work that you did, and we are going to dust ourselves off, and we are going to move forward into the future, where I know that we are going to emerge victorious, because this experience has battered us, but we are not broken. We're disappointed, but we're not defeated. This group will emerge, as we have always been, as the next blue wave, and we are going to move everybody. We're going to move the county, Commonwealth, and country forward. So next blue wave, my friends, next blue wave is us, ever onward, and let's get started with our meeting. I'm going to ask for a slide. And so in the vein of, let's use this as a wake-up call, so this is what I've been talking about. We're strong enough to start again. I'm going to move us to our action. We always try to start the meetings with an action on social media, so please pull out your phones and go to the Arlington Democrats Facebook page at Arlington Dems, and you'll see pinned to the top of the page a post that looks something like what's up here. Folks, it is not fancy from a graphic design perspective. I left it all in the field this past cycle, and I'm down to basic colors and words, and that is what the screen reflects. I think this is the message we need to send out to folks. There are undoubtedly folks, not in this room, but in other rooms, who are sitting there thinking to themselves, I wish I had done more. Right? I know that there are folks out here who did not knock all those doors, who did not pull greed, who did not drop off a messenger, who didn't do all the things that led to that victory that we did experience, at least in Arlington. I want to reach those folks, right? I want them, if they're feeling this right now in the same way that they felt in 2016, let's try to channel it. So this is a very simple message reminding folks that this was a wake-up call. We need all Democrats on deck in order to win elections, and the midterms are coming. So just trying to get that word out, trying to get the Arlington Democrats web address out there so that people can start signing up to volunteer. I know our great volunteer coordinator's out there, and she and her team are ready to intake anybody we get in through the website so that we can point them in the right direction. As you'll hear tonight, we have so many activities that a person can get involved in. We just want to make sure that we're bringing them in so that they know about them. So if you could please, when you find this post, share it into your network, click share, or click like, maybe put a little note in there that says, next blue wave, are you in, or something like that. so that folks know that they do have an outlet if they're feeling unhappy about what happened yesterday. So I really appreciate it. We know that these actions work. They greatly help us to increase our reach. You're going to hear a little bit about our digital reach when we get to our next section of the meeting, which is going to be about election reflection. So if you could please slide. Oh, what's up, Nancy?
I just want to tell you we got our first volunteer. It's now 7-8.
There you go. All right. Our calls to action in action, they work. So great. So thank you for pointing that out, Nancy. So yeah, like these do work. I'm sure that there are people who are out there hurting last night, and as a result of last night. So let's try to pull them into our Democratic family here. Okay, we're going to go next to our election reflections section. Slide, please. And we would be remiss if we did not start with our joint campaign. Our joint campaign is a group of people. It's a small group who lead our push to the general election. We have lots of folks working on different things. These are the folks who are laser focused on making sure that we have the collateral that we need to support our general election candidates, that we've got the digital strategy, that we're doing the field work, all of the things. They meet twice, they meet every other week from the primary until Labor Day, and then they meet every week from the Labor Day until Election Day to make sure that we are ready to go. It is hundreds of hours of work. I know everyone out here did lots and lots of work, but I always want to put an exclamation point on the joint campaign. It is extremely impactful, and it really does take a commitment. We had an outstanding joint campaign team. I know that they didn't get the result that they wanted. This yesterday was not for lack of trying, as the Arlington results demonstrate. So I'd love to hear a big round of applause for our co-chairs, Marissa Degani-Taffy, Helen McBeth, Scott McConnell, and Dan Matthews and Paul Ruiz. If you guys could come up here, we'll let you do your update.
All right. So I thought we'd address the elephant in the room first. This is how we were all feeling last night. As Jill says, you gotta pick yourself up, you gotta keep going. But I thought it was important to say, we didn't get everything we wanted last night. But it wasn't for lack of trying. As Carol says, thank you. She also tells me to hold the mic up. But I'm gonna channel my inner Carol, and she always says that, the job of the Arlington Democrats is to get out every last vote in Arlington to make up for the rest of the state. And sometimes the numbers just don't add up. It doesn't work. But it's not, but we did the job. Everyone in this room did that job. And so if we go to the next slide, these are just a few of the numbers. As Jill mentioned, we broke the 1989 record for turnout in a gubernatorial race. Turnout, we had 8,000 more than 8,000 more people turning out this year than in 2017, for the gubernatorial race. That's what happens when I try to remember numbers. And we did it really because of everyone in this room. So I was, struggling with what will I say when I come up here. After I have this frowny face, what would I say? And I thought it's going to be pretty much the same thing, which is, thank you. Every month we come up here, we have asks for you. We ask you to knock on doors. We ask you to make phone calls.
Buy gold cards.
These two ask you to pay money. I don't ever ask you to do that. But we don't have an ask for you today. We just want to say thank you. So thank you to everyone in this room who made these numbers happen. And I just want to give a quick recap of a couple of areas. If we go to the next slide. One of the things that Dan Matthews is not here tonight, but he was our co-chair for collateral. And when I was at the Canvas sites, both these past few weekends, and really all the way since summer, everyone commented on, you guys have the best yard signs, you guys have the best grip cards to hand out to voters. They look sharp, they've got all the information on there, and that's really a compliment to his hard work. So even though he's not here, I really think we want to thank him for that effort. Next slide. This is the part that I get to talk about, the field operations. I'm Not going to go into the numbers or anything like that because we just did that, but I do have some personal thank yous that I want to make. When I agreed to be on joint campaign, I talked to 2 people who I said, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to rely on you because I don't know what the hell I'm doing. You seem to. So I'm going to come to you with questions, with problems, and I definitely did that. And those were actually John Chandler and Alex Zins. Both of them received early morning and late night phone calls, sometimes a little bit of both, from me asking, what's the next step here? Let me lean on you. And both of them always answered the phone, including Alex, who helped me fix our text messaging problem 2 days before the election. So I really appreciate that. And one of the pieces of advice that Alex gave me was, she said, you have to lean on everyone else in Arlington Democrats. And 2 people she said to give projects to and just forget about it because they'll go on autopilot. She said, we're going to get absentee ballots out to everyone that requests them. Just give that to Bob Platt, he'll just do it. And he did 850 of those by hand. The other thing she said was, go to Carol Burnett and tell her you want her to, quote, do yard signs. And what that meant was that we would put yard signs in 383 medians around the county. It meant that we would put yard signs at 54 polling sites the night before. It meant that we would replace them when they got damaged, stolen, lost, just walked away. It meant that we would work with the county's ordinances, and I'll leave it at that, to try to make sure that we were in compliance with some pretty ridiculous requirements. And it meant that the job's not done, and she's now working to get a crew together to clean all of the yard signs up from all of the medians. So I said I wasn't going to make an ask. I'll make one last ask to help her out with that. See her afterward or email her. I think you're still looking for a few volunteers. Is that right? All right, we'll help her with the other 20%. I really do want to thank everyone in this room, but I do want to most of all thank the people on the joint campaign who I met. As Jill said, we met every Sunday morning for the last couple of months, and it was a lot easier because I was meeting with such good people. Dan, Paul, Kellen, who is, oh, you're here. Kellen, Carissa, I mean, everyone just really works their tails off. Carissa, what you see is what you get in terms of you see her in public, you see her every Sunday morning. She is great. She was I would tell her, I would ask her to come launch a canvas, and she'd say, yeah, only if I get a walk packet with it. So, Paul was doing phone calls from airports and work trips and just, sending emails at midnight trying to get things out the door. Kellen was always the first one at really every event getting set up and tearing it down. Dan was, like I said, a rock star at the Collateral. And then the 2 guiding stars were Maggie and Jill, who every single, if you ever want to know how to run an organization, how to just get the job done, you just look at those 2. I was at Jill's house, I counted, I think it was 8 out of the last 24 days, and I never saw her stop working. Saturdays, Sundays. There was one day she went to her sister-in-law's wedding. I guess we can count that. That's all right. But, those 2 have just done a phenomenal job, not just this year, but the last 4 years. So we really appreciate that. And then lastly, one more, just again, thank you. Thank you to everyone that knocked on doors, that made phone calls, that sent texts, that did yard signs. Everyone in this room contributed to those numbers that we saw up on that first slide. So thank you all. And apparently Helen is next, who can talk about money, which is the thing I'm not allowed to talk about.
Thanks, Scott. Next slide. Great. So I echo everything that Scott said about working with a fantastic team on the joint campaign. I'm not going to go through what each person contributed because I think he covered that rather well. But as you can see from our headline, we beat our fundraising goal this year. So all the work that Scott highlighted would not have been possible if we didn't have the money to pay for that. So our collateral, canvassing materials, the imprinting, the advertising, the Facebook ads, mailings, all of that needed money to make that happen. And through the support of you guys and a lot of other really dedicated Democrats, we were able to exceed our fundraising goal by, so we raised 124% of our goal, which I think is pretty fantastic. So thank you all for your contributions to that. And as part of that, we were able to plan and execute a number of different events as part of our gold card, as well as our free candidate meet and greet, and then our election night party last night. And so those events, I think, were pretty fantastic. And I'd like to specifically say thank you to our co-chairs. You can see up here, so Gabe, Susie, Arlene, Maureen, Kyle, Nicole, and Sasha. We would not have been able to put on any of these events without their support, their hard work, and dedication over the last few months. So I definitely want a round of applause for our event co-chairs. And with that too, we had some amazing speakers. We had Congressman Raskin, we had Senator Tim Kaine, we had Speaker Fillercorn, and a lot of other really great speakers at these events, as well as the kitchen crew. So anyone who came, we had some fantastic food. So I definitely would like to thank Chris and all of the volunteers on the kitchen crew for making sure that we could successfully execute each of these events. So round of applause for our kitchen crew. And then last but certainly not least, on the fundraising side, the Dollars for Dems fundraising campaign, which, you know, it's always a pleasant surprise to see how just sending someone a letter asking for money can actually result in money. And so Carol, for leading that effort for I don't know how many years now, so thank you so much for doing that, and for everyone else who contributed. We could not have done this without you. So, and that is it for my slide, so thank you.
All right. I don't know about you guys, but I woke up this morning and felt like someone kicked me in the stomach. As I sat and thought about what to say to you guys, I started reflecting a little bit on, it's hard because this election casts such a shadow, but I started thinking about the things that we did really, really well. And the one that I think I want to focus on here is the fact that we ran a fantastic digital advertising campaign. A fantastic one. We were all over social media. I can't even take credit for this, but I just want to give you guys the overview, right? We had 7 social media takeovers where we featured our candidates on our social media accounts. Elizabeth Bennett Parker did an About Me. She introduced herself to folks. Many of you didn't know who she was. She had to introduce herself to many Arlingtonians. Alfonso did a day in the life of in the General Assembly. Mary Cadera did a Twitter Q&A where folks sent in her questions and asked her about herself. We did several posts of candidate introductions in both English and Spanish, with English and Spanish subtitles this year. That was new. And we produced a 1.5-minute GOTV video that we filmed at our headquarters and we posted on our social media channels. We launched 5 issue ad campaigns, 15 different issue ads, highlighting gun reforms, reproductive rights, voting rights, small business. This one did very well on Facebook, got a lot of attention, a significant number of engagements and impressions, and that was and that is to the credit of our Small Business Caucus, who I thank tremendously. Next slide. And this is just a sense of the graphics that we produced. I mean, we did 8 information election ads, early voting, voter registration, election day, poll greeting, information, the lead up to Election Day, all of our advertising, all of this required an enormous amount of work. I didn't really do so much of it. Actually, if you go to the next slide, this is the team of people that it takes to do all of that. And so if you'll excuse me for just a second, Summer White and Lana were subject to very late night emails from me, sometimes panicked, as I believe Scott said, in like email, airports and different places, we need to get things out. Thank you for being there and doing reviews. Zoe Fuller did our email reviews. Elizabeth Morgan on Twitter, and Angelo on Instagram. We have a graphic design hero. All of those graphics that you just saw on the screen, that was all done by Rachel Feldman. Dan Matthews contributed. Arbora Johnson came up with the idea for the small business ad that did extremely well, and I had no idea that ad was going to do well. It did fantastic, and that was all Arbora's idea. And so, we got that designed and got it out the door, and it just blew up. Kyle Rumpler, who designed that ad, Angelo again with the graphic design, and Sandra Brody did all the translations for all of those things that you just saw. Technology, of course, Lisa Backer, who helped decode HTML issues. On video, we worked with this year to do all those candidate videos and that Keep Virginia Blue video. A gentleman named Jose Palazzo. He was a documentary filmmaker who lent us his time and editing prowess to do all of that work. It was a ton of work. And thank you. And he threw all of that together and worked with us over many hours. All of our actors, so-called actors who were in that video, Steve Baker, Matt Royer, Rose, Victoria, Sasha, Deborah Woolen, and Laura, thank you all for starring in that and for all of our candidates who were featured in those ads and who submitted text and did those takeover days, Alfonso, Takeovers, Mary, Cadera, and Elizabeth Parker, thank you. Our field operations team, who coordinated with us on getting all that volunteer info out, we still had to disseminate that. And the whole JCC team. I really just feel like I'm a relay point for conveying all this information, but I'm very proud to have worked with all these people. It's a fantastic group, and thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you to my co-chairs and all of the folks that helped out. I'm sorry to keep you here for a little bit longer, but you can't get an elected official this close to a microphone without them having to take it, me included. So thank you for coming tonight. I know you're exhausted. I am too. I know you're disappointed. I am too. And I know what you feel like doing right now is crawling into bed and getting under the covers, maybe after eating some ice cream or maybe watching Star Trek. I do too. And it's okay to stop and rest for a while. And it's also true, though, that in the days ahead, we have to fight. But it is true that we need to pause and regroup and recover. And before thinking about what comes next, I think it's clear that we have to emphasize that we have every reason to be proud of what we achieved in Arlington. We understood the assignment, and by large margins, we elected our entire ticket for our General Assembly, for local electeds, and for our 4 bond issues. It's a big deal. But we lost 3 statewide elections, and the question is, of course, where do we go from here? But I want to start with something that got a little bit lost in the day of the election, and that is that in just 2 years of United Democratic government, we passed landmark legislation on voting rights, healthcare, labor, pay, and criminal justice reform. This is who we are. We are the party that fights for progress, that wakes up every day looking for a way to make the world fairer, to make the world better, and to make the world safer for everyone. Our Arlington delegation is going back to Richmond to defend the progress we were able to make these last 2 years, to stand up for our values, and to keep promoting the policies that improve the lives of everyone in our country and in our communities and in our Commonwealth. Not to mention, we will still control the county board, the school board, the Commonwealth's Attorney's Office, and the other constitutional offices. Here, we will continue to invest and improve our community. We'll keep getting people the help they need in times of crisis. And we'll stay ahead of the curve in treating crime as a problem while also treating people as people. Whenever a campaign loses, there's no shortage of opinions about why that happened. And I'm going to leave opining to the experts because I don't know. What I do know is that even after we lose, particularly after we lose, we need to remind ourselves of who we are and why we are in this fight. We are Arlington. Sorry.
Yeah, we are.
I didn't plan to cry. We are a beautiful, safe, thriving, welcoming, caring, diverse, beloved community. We love our kids. We take care of our families. We look out for our neighbors. We look out for our neighborhoods, and we cherish our community. We believe in our public institutions and that our schools, our county board, our law enforcement, our criminal justice system should reflect what is the best in us. We build this beloved community together. We will defend it together, and we will make it better together. The best thing I read in the last 2 days is a post this morning from the Arlington Dems Twitter feed that read, "When the going gets tough, surround yourself with people who love you." I'm glad that we can be here for each other tonight. I'm glad that we can come together in our beloved community. Yes, it's going to be tough, but there's no one I'd rather join hands in the fight than with you. Thank you.
All right, that's our joint campaign, everybody. Well done, Arlington. Thank you. Thank you, guys. Of course, the joint campaign didn't do it alone, though they did an awesome job. It is a full team effort of folks pulling in different directions in order to get us across the finish line here in Arlington. And we're going to walk through some of our major functional areas, as we call them, and hear about what they did, their thank yous, their reflections on the election. Our first up is really a pillar of the Arlington Democrats, Carol Fontaine, who's going to take us through what our incredible team of precinct operations folks did on election day and more. So Carol, take it away.
Hello, Arlington Democrats. I can't say that I'm happy to be with you, but I can say that I am glad to be here with you. And my take on all of this is, just as Jill has said, we did our best. We worked as hard as we could, and we did as well as we could, and Arlington did well. Slide, please. First, I want to say bravo to all poll leaders. If you were a poll leader, stand up. This is who we are. This is who we are. Can I have the next slide, please? The photo that I really wish I had was of a guy named Paul. Is Mark Fiumara here? Mark met him. Paul rode his bike in DC to a metro, took the metro to Crystal City, and went to Hume Precinct and was there for 2 hours at least, actually 4 hours, and then he went home. Paul campaigned for John Kennedy in 1960. We had actually 677 individual poll readers who were covering 1395 one-hour shifts. That's what poll reading is on election day in Arlington. Next year, by the way, it's going to be 1,500 shifts because the polls will be open until 8. So it's not too soon to sign up. What? Oh, no, until 8?
I don't know. I thought I had to. Yes, if you claim it has to be a certain winner.
Oh, okay, well, you know, who knows? Yeah. Okay. Now, following up on the theme really that Carissa started, I want to share something else with you, slide. And I got to read this because I paraphrased this. This was something that I heard way back in the early 70s. I think it might have been Bella Abzug, but I can't remember. And what she said, and this has always stuck in my mind, and some of you have heard me say this, pick your cause carefully, because although you will always fight hard, you won't always win. You won't always win the battle. And it's good to be fighting with people you care about and who care about you. And that's who we are. And I am so honored to be with you all. People I care about, people who care about me, people I learn from, I respect and trust. This is a key thing to sort of keep in the back of your mind during these challenging times. Slide, please. So, Precinct Ops has so many people to thank, so I'm just going to sort of list the major categories. First off is the Precinct Operations Team. Precinct Captains, fabulous. Area Chairs, fabulous. Howard and Jack's Messengers and Election Day Operations, unbelievable. And the unbelievable hole filling team, you've heard of the HFT, did tremendous work this last couple of weeks. Deputy Chair Fran, stand up. Our buddy Eric Wolf is not here. He and his circuit riders. Kind of sounds like Indiana Jones or something, you know, one of those, you know, groups. And then Sarah Lanford has been a big help to us. And Mark Teal, is Mark here tonight? Sarah here? Sarah's here? Yay. Slide, please. And I knew I would leave out something, and one of the main things I left out was the joint campaign. So many, many thanks to the joint campaign. Thanks to the voter support team, Marsha Johnson and her crew. Thanks to the comms team. Oh my God, the comms team did so much for us. All of these groups did so much for us. Nancy and the volunteer coordinator, the Dems on the electoral board, Matt and Kim. They really helped us. Paula Potts, who transferred all of those precinct-level Google schedules of poll readers into PDFs. Unbelievable. Carol Burnett helped us. I mean, Carol Burnett, let's face it, just gets everywhere. And Diana Gordon. And lastly, let's just thank all of us, all other Arlington Dems. This was a huge, huge effort by all of us, and I'm so proud and pleased and honored to be a part of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Carol. One big round of applause again for the Precinct Operations team. Now, I think we take it for granted here, but what Carol just ran through is not something that you see in every Democratic committee. right? The fact that we were able to field 600 poll greeters on one day alone, right? And not to mention what we're going to hear about with early voting and voter support. But that is incredible. That we had circuit riders making sure everybody has the sample ballots that we need is incredible. That there's a team that sits on election day and just solves problems within precinct ops to make sure that voters have that sample ballot. Really, precinct operations is such a well-oiled machine thanks to Carol's leadership over several years. I really think Carol alone deserves a very big round of applause for everything that she has done. Do not take it for granted, folks. It is unusual amongst committees, and I think it's that sort of infrastructure that's going to keep us moving forward. I do want to keep us moving forward in our meeting, and so we're going to guess for this slide in advance. I believe we're on to, I want to say, Beyond Arlington. Okay, so we're going to do a switch from Arlington to our efforts beyond Arlington. And a huge round of applause as Rose Fabia comes up here. We led the charge outside of Arlington that was plainly so needed. Thank you, Rose. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Well, anyways, I just want to kind of go through the whole year. Beyond Arlington started off early in January. First, there was a special election with Lori Buchwald, and we had a phone bank, and Mary Detweiler and Gerald Schwinn and myself, for 2 months, we made calls to Southwest Virginia over just to get her name out there, hopefully with the special election, we could get her elected to the state senate. We fell short, but I have to tell you, Lori Buchwald has thanked me over and over again that we recognized Southwest. We knew they were, and that we helped, and she was so appreciative of that. The next thing we did was, after that, we did knocking on doors for Dan Helmer. That was in May. What did Dan Helmer do? He was right there knocking on doors, asking people if they needed help with vaccines, if they needed help with food, and groceries, or anything else, because we were still in that, holding pattern and isolated. So we did that, and then the next month we started doing phone banking for Paul Seiker, because he wasn't being challenged by anybody else, and he decided to run against Dave LaRock, who was the insurrectionist. And so both myself and Josh said, yes, let's do it. Let's support this guy way out there in Loudoun County. So again, phone banking, 2 more months of phone banking, of getting his name out there. And once again, it was Mary Detweiler, and it was myself, and Gerald Schwinn and a few other people, consistently calling people and telling people, this is a person who's going to be running in the 33rd District. And once again, Paul Seiker, who came out of nowhere, decided to challenge Dave LaRock, thanked us profusely from that, thanking Arlington for seeing somebody way out there in western Loudoun County. And of course, we had to do it. We just had to. And then became the primaries, and we decided to go for 3 candidates who were incumbents, and then 2 candidates who were running to protect Breonna Sewell, Paul Seiker, and the 3 incumbents, Josh Cole, Dan Helmer, and Wendy Godivis. I'm sorry to say Josh Cole fell short, and I think racism played a huge part in it. And I'm mad, sad, and everything else. That one was hard. It was horrible. Anyway, so if you knew Josh Cole, like we know Josh Cole, he was one of the best legislators of our General Assembly when it came to climate, education, everything across the board. Excellent. And the way they attacked him because of his color was inexcusable, and it was deplorable. Thank you. But Yeah. So we do have good news. Dan Helmer. He just worked 7 days a week, and he never let up. Everyone said, "You have this." He says, "I'm not going to take anything for chance. I'm not going to take it for granted. I'm going full speed ahead." And that's what he did. He canvassed on weekends. He canvassed on weekdays. My husband and I were his drivers, and I can attest to you, he was nonstop. He would canvass for all the undecided voters, knock on their doors in the middle of the day into 8 o'clock at night. No lunch, no dinner. He was nonstop. We would have good granola bars and diet sodas, and that was about it. But to watch him knocking on doors on an undecided voter and asking them, "How can I convince you to vote for me, to support me? What is it that I haven't done?" And then he would list all the things that were accomplished in the last 2 years. And they said, "I didn't realize that's what you all did." And he says, "Yep." He goes, "Is there anything I left out that could have improved your life?" And most of them said, "No, I think I'm going to vote for you because you came to my door enough. You cared enough to come to my door, and you've got my vote." And he gained at least 1,700 votes by knocking on those undecided voters. And to watch him was just absolutely incredible. I mean, I looked forward to being there in the car for about 6 hours straight. He's incredible, and I think he's got a real future in the Democratic Party, beyond being a delegate. He's a caring human being. He's a big proponent on women's reproductive rights. He was the first to really come out on gun sense laws, and he had no bones about it that any assault weapons should not be in society. They were meant at war, but never in the hands of anybody on the streets. He's just been a terrific person to volunteer, and I would do it again. Wendy Gonzalez, that was fantastic. She won. It was a close race, but she pulled it through. Brianna Sewell, the protected Hala Yelesi. She ran a fantastic race. It was all positive, and she was there every day, calling, canvassing, doing everything she can. Paul Syker, like I said, ran short, but he ran a good race, and he was just a good and decent human being. And we also, I want to say that I couldn't have done this without the collaboration of the grassroots. We partnered with Indivisible Waterfront. They would bring 4 or 5 of their volunteers, we'd bring 4 or 5 of our volunteers, and all of a sudden we have close to 10 people. And that looks great for the candidate. We partner with Blue families all the time with canvassing, and do social hours at the dirt farm, lottery afterwards. But we couldn't have done it without them either. One of the greatest feats was for Josh Cole, and that was on October 23rd. Catholic University contacted me, reached out to me saying they wanted to canvass for him again, and they were going to have 15 students. And so that was at the time when the Metro was reducing the rail cars. So that would have added more time to their travel from Catholic University to East Falls Church. And they said, "Do you have any drivers, and could you pick us up at Catholic University?" So I had to think about our volunteers. Can we go all the way over there, add that amount of time, and then come back? That's asking a lot. So instead, I reached out to the DC's NOTE, which is Neighbors Defending Democracy. And they said, "Hey, Rose, we're going down there anyway, so of course we'll take them." So they took 15 students, and we took 10 GW students. That's 25 students, plus we had 8 canvassers from Arlington. It was a record high, and there's a picture, I think the next page. No, that was it. Go back. That last one. You go back to the end of the page. That's the one. This is one. Wow. That's the one where they said that was the largest group they've ever had on record. And young Dems were there, and Blue families were there. It was just a fantastic way to show Josh, we got your back. And then the next one, while Blues Families, Indivisible Waterfront the last weekend, campus for Paul Syker, I went down with some grassroots coalition people. There was 20 of us, people from NOPE, from WOFA, from Democracy Forward, and we canvassed for Alex Askew. We did 1,000 doors, 20 of us, in one day, 500 on Sunday, and about 100 on Friday. And now he's in a rig count. He's 200 difference between him and his opponent, less than 1%. And I'd like to think that maybe with our conversations, because when we canvassed, we had conversations with people until they said yes. We were relentless. And so I'm proud of the volunteers we have, like Mary Detweiler, Gerald Schwinn, Jane Flack, and Gail Hermosella, and a number of other people, but they were the ones who were consistently there over and over again, and plus the grassroots organizations that we partnered with, and especially with Blue Families, with Josh, Elisa, and Jess. It was just a wonderful coordination and collaboration. Thank you.
Big round of applause for the whole Beyond Arlington team. They did an incredible job. I will say that I think it was Kip and Steve who conceived of Beyond Arlington, and I think it has really paid dividends, and it is where I think we should invest more. It's plain that we can get the job done in Arlington. We have to figure out how we can further export. So, Rose, thank you for what you were able to accomplish this year. I think that is the challenge in the next year to come, is how do we amplify that? I look at the incredible digital campaign that we ran here in Arlington, and I agree, Paul, that was an incredible campaign. We talked about the issues that were on the line that maybe got a little bit lost in the main party's messaging. We put it out there in Arlington, and I think it had an impact. We can, I think, extend our comms further, or at least make it available to other committees that they could also put out the same sort of messaging if they think it will make sense in their community. Up to them to decide, right? Because local decisions are what matter. But I think that when I look at our joint campaign and what really was spectacular was the collateral, which that's very hard for us to repeat elsewhere, but the digital comms, I think we can expand. So that would be my suggestion into the future, but we'll see what other great ideas you all have out there for how we can push out Arlington's organizing power even further, based on the wonderful organization that Rose and Steve before her have built with the support of our Blue Families and our Arlington Young Democrats. I think this is where the future is, but thank you, Rose, for the work that you did today to lay the foundation for what we're going to get done next year. Thank you. Rose mentioned that we're in a recount situation in at least one of those Beyond Arlington races, and I have it on good authority that there's a person in the room who's been in the boiler room all day today, so I'd like to welcome up newly re-elected Delegate Alfonso Lopez for an update on where we stand.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you so very, very much. You have no idea how many times people across the Commonwealth of Virginia, our candidates, have thanked me and Patrick and Rip because of you and everything you have done. So thank you very, very much. Anybody see my first debate? It was like 50 people in the room. Caucus. My opponent accused me of being a pro-science elitist. Pro-science elitist. I've made t-shirts, Team Lopez, on the back it says pro-science elitists. You have no idea the repugnancy of how the Republicans ran their campaign this year. Repugnant in terms of not talking about the issues, not talking about things that matter to working families, but critical race theory, banning books, culture wars. And we just found out today that in the Alex Askew campaign, no, the Nancy Guy campaign, that her opponent put forward a fake organization called the Black Caucus of Hampton Roads, with the faces of Alex Askew and Jay Jones and Barry Knight in support of Nancy Guy's opponent. And they know that that switched at least 300, 400 votes. So here's the thing. Republicans are going to try to talk about how they have a mandate. All right? A mandate for changing Virginia back. The majority in the House of Delegates flipped to the Republicans. Out of 3 million plus votes in Virginia, the difference between the majority and the minority is 1,170 votes. Out of 3 million cast. And they did everything they possibly could, by hook or by crook, to flip those votes. Terry McAuliffe got more votes than Ralph Northam did 4 years ago. You did your job. And on behalf of a very grateful House Democratic Caucus, thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Right now, we have lawyers moving in a bunch of, who here thinks it's hilarious that all of a sudden, now that the campaign happened the way it happened, that all of a sudden there's no violations of campaign, there's no campaign fraud, there's no election fraud. It was wonderful. It's silence from the Republicans. The hypocrisy with a capital H exists in the Commonwealth of Virginia, and it's called the Republican Party. We have to continue doing what we're doing. We have to continue fighting the good fight. We have to continue talking about issues that matter to working families. Because everything we fought for, everything we said we'd fight for 2 years ago, we did. Sensible gun violence prevention legislation, a social safety net that actually works. Addressing climate change, passing the Equal Rights Amendment, making it so that abortion rights are not infringed upon in the Commonwealth of Virginia. We delivered, and people responded to that. We have to keep doing the same thing. So people who say we have to moderate our message, we have to change, no. We just ran up against one of the most perfect storms in the history of the Virginia political machine. All right? Everything going on at the national level, everything going on with this incredibly repugnant campaign process that the Republicans put forward. So, here's what's happening. We have lawyers in 3 races. Martha Mugler is around 270 votes. Alice Askew, 202 votes. And Lashley's Air, around 600 votes. We're going to have the canvass happen this Friday, and we're going to have people watching every step of the process. In the campaign of Alex Askew, he was up 1,000 votes last night around 1 a.m. And around 4 a.m., those 1,000 votes disappeared. So we're trying to find out what's going on. We'll find out, and they'll probably be okay. But this is why we have lawyers going in every direction where these campaigns are happening. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for everything that you have done to help us across the Commonwealth. Because without your help, a lot of the races that were very close, we wouldn't have won. And a lot of the races that were oh so close and we didn't win, got close because of your energy and activism and support. And so, on behalf of the amazing Eileen Fillicorn and the amazing Charnel Herring, thank you.
Give it up for the amazing Alfonso Lopez, please. Democratic Rep, House of Delegates. And I agree, Rose, the Josh Cole loss was probably the hardest to see. For those of you who attended the Golden Gala, and I know that was everyone in the room, he was one of our speakers there, and he was so inspiring. He read from memory a passage from Scripture talking about how there was a man who could not back away from a fight because the fire was in his bones, the fire. And he brought the fire to that event. He brought the fire to the campaign trail, and we must bring the fire on his behalf into the future. Because I agree with Barbara, I heard you back there, let's get him reelected. Absolutely we will. Absolutely we're going to get Josh Cole reelected. And we're going to fight for all of these other great legislators. What Alfonso left out is that almost certainly we're going to have another House of Delegates election next year because of redistricting. And so we do have an opportunity next year to hit the reset button. And we should be fighting like hell for Josh Cole. And all of the great legislators who will help to move our great Commonwealth forward. Thank you for the Beyond Arlington work. Let us focus on that next year while always taking care of business in Arlington, and I know that this group can do it. I do want to keep us moving in our meeting. Delegate Lopez talked about the shenanigans, or at least the shenanigans, I should say, the communications that the Republicans have been putting out there about our elections. Let me take a moment to pause and say thank you to our election officials who put on, I think, a tremendous election in the county and beyond. They did a great job. They endured a fair amount of harassment from Republican observers who have gone silent now that the results have gone in their favor. You know, when I talked at the beginning of this meeting about the ways that we can get involved, joining a commission at the local level is one way. Watch what's happening on our electoral board is another. Because it will be Democrat controlled through the end of next year, and then it flips because it follows the party of the governor. And we need to be very careful and watch what they're doing to make sure that we still have Sunday voting like we did this year for the first time. 1,400 people voted over 4 hours in 3 locations. These are the sorts of reforms that are important, that make sure that everyday working Virginians are able to access the polls, are able to access our democracy. One of the most important things that we can do is to make sure that that access exists. We will be watching the electoral board in the future. We will be making sure that our voters are registered and understand how to get to the polls, when to get to the polls, and sure as hell who to vote for. But the person who led the effort this year, and I hope will lead it in years to come, to make sure that our voters are well educated, is the head of our voter support group, Marsha Johnson, who I'm going to welcome up here. I want a much bigger round of applause to the woman whose team stamped every single hour of early voting with at least one poll reader, or normally 2. Made a difference. Thank you, Marsha.
I always said that the United States should have voting like they do in Europe on a weekend, Saturday and Sunday. Seems like it always made sense to me. But people say, how do you do all that stuff in voter support? I have a lot of help. So that's what these are about. And yes, the Josh Cole thing is heartbreaking. Wait, can I still see myself? Lisa's like, okay. All right. Early voting poll grading. The main attribute is stamina. 45 days, I think it's the longest in the country, pretty sure. So this isn't everyone. These are people who, actually, thank you, Lisa, for that Excel sheet today, because it listed the people who signed up multiple times. Rachel Dondero, who I don't think is here. Rachel, she was a stalwart. Susan is here. And then our captains, Detta, I didn't see Detta. Oh, there she is. And Laurel, Walter Reed, is Laurel here? No, she's away, I think. David Tate, also, I didn't see. Anyway, Madison, Kevin McCaffrey, there he is. A guy in the back room handling all the tech, and Paula, I think she's probably on YouTube. Anyway, Paula TV, kind of our volunteer front. And Nicole Merlene came out many times up at Courthouse. So that was great. And I want to thank Matt for getting that picture of me with my Converse, channeling Kamala. Anyway, then I have to do a special shout out. Now, Mona won't be here, but a lot of people in this room know Mona Chu. She's done poll grading for everyone. Mona, we would have shut down every afternoon, early voting poll grading, if it wasn't for Mona. She did 4 hours almost every day, Monday through Friday at Caucus. So I don't have pictures of Mona, but I have pictures of her shoes. She would always, we're running out of ballots, we're running low on this, and that's how we found the error on the Arlington, the public school bond number on the ballot. It was a voter who showed it, but she texted it to me. So that's Mona. All right, special shout out. And thanks to all of those voting poll graders, because we got moments like this. We did get a first-time voter with her parents. Rachel took that, Rachel and Girl. So, voter reg, spring and fall. These again are sort of the super volunteers, the ones who, David, is that David? Hey, David. For early voting poll grading, Sheriff's Department, thank you very much, David, for coming out. At 7:30 when nobody else would do it. Anyway, so Paula Potts, and I couldn't have done any of this without her. And Sandra Brody, is Sandra here? No, she didn't come. Anyway, Sandra, who's already been lauded for her translation. Jackson, who's over here, I think helping out Paula and Franny. Captaining voter reg at Shirlington, Arbora also, Janice Kyle, Natalie Hall, Stuart Scott up at Whole Foods at Pentagon, Crystal City, David Van Wagner, the all-purpose super volunteer, both early voting, poll grading, and voter registration at Good Company, John Moreland, Keith Oberg. Are either of you here? There they are in the back. Those two, we weren't doing Metro Action per se because of COVID kind of disrupting the traffic. So, but those two, the last, couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, they said, let's go to Clarendon. And so they did, 3 nights a week or something, a couple of hours. Got 9 in one session, I think, 9 registrations. So that was great. And Colleen, who's here, I think. Colleen McCool and her insistence on doing something down on in her neighborhood, so in South Arlington. So these are our great voter registration volunteers, super volunteers. All right, next slide, please. And translation services. Okay, this is not our event. This is a Latino Caucus event. The Cafecito con Tacos. So, but anyway, I wanted to put it there because Sandra did it. It was at their house. And so she, obviously Sandra, sort of leading that group, but Lee Walzer, Luisa Concepcion, and Jean-Marie Pina. Sorry, I didn't have an N yet. I couldn't figure out how to do it. And these guys helped Sandra a lot with translation. Next slide. Diana Gordon, the one, relentless travel to hostile territory. She was called a Nazi. She was, all kinds of stuff. So, to monitor what was going on. Believe me, I didn't like what I heard, but that was my first window into yesterday. All right, so there we go, next one. Rise to the polls. We have a little video. Very short, just and sweet. And, okay, thank you. Obrigado, domarigato, merci. Next slide to all of these people. Great job. And next slide I don't need because you guys have had all kinds of other great numbers, but I just said it was a great job. Total voter turnout, you've already seen that. It's way ahead of 2017. Early voters, about almost 30%, at least that's what I saw. This is from the county page. I took it off today. And voter registrations, I hope this is right, Paul, I took it off the checkout thing. It's only since September 1st, so 100, just over 100 voter registrations in 2 months, 1 month actually. Is that September 1st to 6 weeks, something like that. Anyway, great job, everybody. Thank you so much.
applause for our voter support group. Did an incredible job making sure that our voters knew where to go in and had the registrations that they needed to get it done. Thank you so much, and it'll be even more important next year. And I'm looking forward to being back into Metro action, hopefully next year as things get back even more to normal. All right, I'm going to keep us moving along. And we're going to move on to our outreach section. I think outreach is so important. I think it's no surprise to the steering committee, at least, how important I think outreach is. We made some pretty radical changes to its organization over the past 4 years. My goal in making those changes with the bylaws with your support was to unlock the potential of outreach. And I think that this leadership team that you see before you had got it done. The reason why outreach is so important is not just that we convert votes of underrepresented communities on election day, but that we are with them every day of the year in the community, addressing needs, making sure that our elected officials know about those needs. This is a team that gets it done all year round, and especially on election day. They had some incredible events this past month. I can't do it justice. I'm going to turn it over to the people who can. I think it's going to be Vicki and Mike to let us know what outreach was up to this past election cycle and to just impress us with the just amazing events. So come on now.
Thank you guys so much, and welcome to the outreach update. Like Jill said, there were a lot of partnerships between outreach beyond Arlington, Blue Families, and we're excited to share them with you today. Next slide, please. So quick, this slide is a little incorrect, so thank you, Jack, for helping me. So we are on hiatus as of last week, and we will come back. If you're interested in getting involved when the weather starts to become nice again, get in touch with us. We'd love to welcome you to the farmers markets of Arlington Democrats. Next slide, please. And we are very, as Paul was saying, Arlington Democrats, we have gone digital. So have the caucuses. So we've got a lot of information on Facebook, on Instagram, and on Twitter. I would encourage all of you to visit our pages, and we're happy to share more information online. Next slide. And I'm going to turn it over to Sangeeta to talk about the Aepi Caucus this past vote season.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Who all came to the Diwali event? Good. I'd like to see everybody's hands up next year. Okay, next slide, please. This was the invitation, and this was the first time we ever did this event. There were a few hiccups, but everything turned out to be okay. Next slide, please. And these were our speakers. We had Congressman Don Beyer, Delegate Kathy Tran, Delegate Mark Keene, Delegate Patrick Hope, Delegate Alfonso Lopez, and Takeovers County Board Member. And next slide, please. So the DNC now has a coalition director for the AAPI. And he sends out, his name is Eric Salcido, he sends out a weekly email to all of the AAPI organizations around the country. I was so pleased to see the very top of his email, the picture from our event. That was the very first thing as soon as you opened the email, just the sign. Okay, next slide, please. And this is a picture taken from the event. Actually, Eric took this photo. He came with a very fancy camera and he took this photo. So I thought it was very successful, and I think we all look pretty good. And by the way, I haven't tied a sari in like 2 years, and I got it on the first try. Thank you very much. All right, next slide. So we also had dancers. We reached out to an Indian dance company. You know, we want to make this really about reaching out to the community and letting them know that we exist, because that's very important. We need to let the AAPI community know that there are, that we exist and we can help them register to vote, that sort of thing. Go ahead, next slide, please. And, you know, anytime Jill dances, I gotta get a picture, so. She came up to me, she's like, you better come and dance with me. Okay, next slide. And, okay, decided to do this today. I went to go get my booster shot today, and there were all these the vaccine volunteers, and they were collecting the young kid signs. And so I joined in with them, and I took out the trash. So I just wanted to put in some comic relief for today, because I know we're all pretty sad. So that's me, throwing out the racist, homophobic trash, among many other things. That's it.
Thank you so much, Sangeeta. And now I'm going to pass it on to Josh for our Blue Families update.
Thank you. So I'll just share a little bit of the good and bad and some random thoughts. The good is, like, we really stepped up on the postcards this year. 54,000 is way more than what we did in 2019. Obviously, not as much as we did in 2020, but it's still really impressive. It's just a great way to get people involved. And we knocked over 1,000 doors. I think we could have done better. Rose. I wish Rose had come out a little harder on this, but like we really struggled to find people early in the year and convince people and sort of sound the alarm that this was going to be a much closer election than we thought. And so I think it is a wake up call, and I think that next year we're gonna do better. But I just it ramped up. When people like this last couple of weeks, people were really very, very, very engaged. But we need to start earlier. Too much is at stake. The costs of taking a year off are so much higher now than they were 10, 20 years ago. We did have a great potluck picnic, and I wanted to put one more picture of the alpaca up there. Just stare at the alpaca when you're starting to feel existential dread. The last thing I wanted to say is I got started, really got involved with the Arlington Dems in January of 2017, and so all of my experience with elections has been one of celebration in some form. So this is the first time that it's really felt like it got punched, and one of the things it makes me realize is just how amazing it is, those of you who've been involved in the Dems for 10, 20, 30 years, just that you keep coming out even though we have our ups and downs. And so I just want to extend that gesture of respect to everyone who's been involved for so long. And it gives me hope that I can find some of the grit to keep going and make next year a much better result. So, thank you.
Next slide, please. Next slide, please. All right, and then Arbra with the amazing viral ad, which I cannot wait for her to talk about.
All right, hi, I'm Arbra.
You don't have to stand right there, but
We're talking to the kids. Okay. So I actually hate social media and bad at social media, so it's ironic that I was able to help create a viral ad. But I feel like it's the evil that the other side is engaging in, so we have no choice. So anyway, just briefly, I actually want to give a shout out to Keith Willis. I don't think Keith is here tonight. He is my cohort on the labor side. And he actually had the idea. He said, look, labor's out there doing their own thing, but what about some Facebook ads? And then the other, I think Alyssa Marla might have been here. She left. She and Toby, the owner of Toby's Ice Cream in Westover, I talked to them, and it was through sort of pushing a little bit on what issues really resonate with small business owners that I think we were able to get this successful ad. Because I love the fact that we're raising the minimum wage, but that does not resonate with small business owners. There's a lot of things I love, but that's not what resonates with small business owners. So I guess my takeaway and plea would be, we gotta keep going every day. We gotta talk to people, and it's not necessarily like, why did you vote for Youngkin? It's, what can we do? What are the Democrats in Arlington doing that helps you? Because we're doing it, and I feel like we didn't take enough credit, right? We didn't take enough credit, and we also didn't call out the racism. Dan Helmer got attacked, and he got on MSNBC, and it really backfired, and somehow we didn't get that for Josh. So I know we're all sad about Josh, but we'll get him elected. We'll get Josh Cole back in, but I feel like we need to make sure that we're talking to people outside this room, because we're all on board. But lots of other people are on board. We're just not quite connecting with them every day. So that's all. Join our caucus. And yeah, Paul is the one who really sort of did all the work. I just said, we need to have an ad. We need to say Democrats are better for the economy, and then it went from there. But I think we do need to poke a little bit, right? Poke the bear. We can't be polite. The other side plays hardball, we gotta play hardball. So, and I'll skip ahead to the labor slide. Can somebody do that? They got separated. Skip ahead, skip ahead. We'll come back to that. Okay, so this has not been updated, but Keith hosted a fabulous meeting, which I think maybe Disabilities Caucus will talk about a little bit, about labor and disabilities and how there's been some important things left out for workers with disabilities. For example, not necessarily being covered by minimum wage. And I just want to shout out to Keith for he really has been educating all of us that have not necessarily been involved with the labor movement. And it's not directly in Arlington Dems Labor Caucus event, but we are every Wednesday, 8:15 to 8:45, right, Matt? We are trying to urge Senator Warner to sign on to the PRO Act. So if you believe in that cause and have some free time on Wednesday mornings, join us there. We can get you more information. So that's all.
Thank you so much, Arbra and Keith, for all the work that you guys are doing. And then, could we go back? Thank you, Lisa, always on it. And now I'm going to hand it over to Daniel to give us the update on the Disabilities Caucus.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, everyone. First of all, I do want to announce our next meeting will be on Saturday, November 20th at 3 p.m. And our information on how to get involved is posted on the screen. Next slide, please. So this month we actually had a meeting where we held a pre-election dialogue and discussion with Delegate Patrick Hogue, as well as now school board member-elect Mary Cadera, and we had a really, really healthy discussion in terms of how do we engage with some of the vitriol that has been going on in terms of our civic life and school affairs, because at which people with disabilities have actually, in some cases, been right in the crosshairs as the anti-masking activism that has been going on in the school districts is actually a mortal threat to kids with chronic conditions and immunocompromised kids, particularly until vaccination can occur, so that there can be herd immunity among kids. It is, it is life-threatening to kids with immunocompromise to be exposed to COVID. So, so Mary and Patrick really, I thought, talked about how we could, respectfully but courageously engage with the disinformation, with the vitriol, and try to push back respectfully but firmly on the other, against the other side. So we thought that was a really great discussion, and very much appreciated both of their participation in that. The caucus really, we also raised discussion about issues around access to Medicaid and long-term care services. And as Arbor talked about, we also were talking about Youngkin's past business dealings with sub-minimum wage paying companies that were paying people with disabilities below the minimum wage. And I think one thing that, especially if we can get the bill Building Better Act through, there is money to provide incentives to transition to competitive integrated employment for people with disabilities, and we need to hold Republicans, including Youngkin, accountable for actually taking that money and getting people with disabilities into equal paying jobs in integrated settings. And if they don't, we need to hold them accountable for that. So just wanted to flag that as one issue in one place where we can really take the fight back to the Republicans and show that we are standing for working people and we are on their side. So in any case, we look forward to future dialogues with more of our public officials, but we've been really thrilled with the ones we've had thus far. Next slide, please. Yep, so we also, as Arbor referred to, collaborated with Business and Labor Caucus for their October meeting. We talked about issues that in business practices that cause tensions with the disability community and people with disabilities that work in labor. And it isn't just sub-minimum wage, it is also issues of accessibility, physical, virtual, and just general non-compliance with the Americans with Disabilities Act. And just to flag for folks, there is actually one Supreme Court case where Section 504, which is a cornerstone law for people with disabilities, the right for people with disabilities to sue for disparate impact discrimination is at issue in a case with CVS that is coming up on December 7th. And unfortunately, CVS is trying to get disparate impact provisions of Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act thrown out. And so this is an issue that we will be keeping you updated on and educating you on in the future. With that,
one more slide.
One more slide. Okay. And actually, let's see. No, actually, that's actually an old slide, so we can discard that.
All right.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Daniel, for all the work that you guys are doing. So our Equality Caucus is our newest caucus, and it's headed by Jonathan Trumbull and Kevin Salcedo-Broach, who are not here with us today. Next slide. And they are continuing to move forward, positivity, they're going to start doing some policy developments with the Governor's Advisory Board with Jonathan is on, and so very excited to start thinking about policy implications moving forward, and a little bit of celebration, holiday party. So they're looking forward to going back to Freddy's, which is a staple for the LGBTQ community here in Arlington. So please get a look out for that. Next slide. We already did labor. And so the Latino Caucus, mil gracias por su liderazgo. I'm going to give a huge shout out to Kathleen, who's here in the room with us today, Sandra for all of her work, Cris Concepcion. The Latino Caucus has grown tremendously. Latinos comprise 30% of the population here in Arlington. Next slide. And they've been registering voters out on the street. We have 2 locations. Again, that partnership with Marsha, with voter protection, a lot of the partnerships have really helped build out our reach, which is one of the main purposes of the outreach caucuses. Next slide, please. Todos con Terry, there were a lot of collaborations with D-Love events. That we had one in South Arlington. We welcomed Senator Padilla from California into South Arlington. We had an amazing Get Out the Vote event with him. Next slide, please. Including, car rallies with leaders who came here to help mobilize the Latino vote in this area. And I think those partnerships with leaders, not just here in the area, but those leaders that come, that are helping us reach our Latino population, has been tremendous. And the role of the Latino Caucus in that partnership and representing Arlington Democrats has been incredible to witness. Next slide, please. And celebrate with those who have won, those who have come. I want to say, remember when the school board, Mary, thank you for hosting an event in Spanish. It's those little things that the Latino Caucus has facilitated that helps us reach the community and help us reach Latino Caucus, where they are, both from a language point of view, but also, from a community point of view with where we host our events. Next slide, please. And here's just, a picture of our community through a lot of the Get Out the Vote events that we've been doing. And while, we have suffered a loss, last night the Latino Caucus, as well as every caucus as a part of the Arlington Democrats, is committed to continuing the work that they've been doing and to continue to fight for our ideals. Next slide. And now to talk about our interfaith outreach and advocacy, I'm going to hand it over to Fatima.
Thank you, Vicki. Okay, well, that's an incredible. I just want to have a hand for all of the outreach caucuses. I mean, I'm just I'm amazed at all we do here in Arlington in this small community. So those are really hard acts to follow. I wanted to start out with our first slide. As you can see, our meetings are now they used to be on the weekends during COVID, but now that everybody has a life and is able to get out during weekends, we decided to have our meetings on Tuesday nights instead. So we're now meeting at 7:30 and bi-weekly. So as you can see, our next meeting is on November 9th, 7:30. Everyone is always welcome to join our meetings. We welcome new members, and we've got a lot of plans coming up for the next year, so we're going to need a lot of people to put them into action. And so I hope that we will have a lot more people. Anyway. So just going over what we did recently, we co-sponsored a day of action with Michelle Maldonado on October 23rd, and you can see that, oh, sorry, next slide, please. I'm looking at my slides. Didn't see that they weren't up there. So, so you can see that we had quite a few people. We co-sponsored it. There were a lot of AAPI members there. And collectively, I'm told we knocked on almost 800 to 1,000 doors that weekend. That day, I think. Yeah. So I think we can be proud of ourselves. And, the other thing is, amid all of the doom and gloom and, not so great news that we received yesterday, there were some victories. Michelle Maldonado's among them. So we have our thumbs to thank about that, everybody that knocked on those doors. So, and I'm particularly thrilled that we elected Michelle because she is a very special candidate. I mean, all of our candidates are special, but what is different about Michelle, what I thought was just amazing, was, and why the Interfaith Caucus participated is because she has a spiritual component to her public policy ideas. She relies a lot on faith, she relies a lot on just spirituality and doing the right thing, and connects those two very well, and I was very impressed. For those of you that haven't seen it, she has, and I promise I'm not a paid spokesman for her, but she has a really great podcast out on Sounds True. I would encourage everyone to listen to it. It's pretty amazing. So anyway, I'm thrilled that she got elected. And next slide, please. And my pages won't cooperate. Okay, so one of the other things we did was we had a very successful early voting promotion for Souls to the Polls. I am told that we had 1,400 people out on Sunday, October 24th, 1,400 people in Arlington, and 11,000 statewide. So I think that's a record, isn't it, Mike? Yeah. So can we have a round of applause for that? I feel like Joe Bush, I have to ask, please clap. Okay, got a couple of other updates. We are still working on this vaccine video. I know it's taking forever, but we want to make sure that we have the right people, and people have been very busy, obviously, during this election season, so we're hoping to complete that by the end of this month and get it out by then. So just continue to look out for it and be patient with us. Thank you. And we will also be doing the third of our issues forums on challenging hate, bigotry, and racism. Sometime, we're looking at late November, hopefully before Thanksgiving, and early December 2021. We have a special guest that we have been working with. He's a musician, so he travels a lot, but he's someone that really knows about how to deal with these issues and has a very incredible personal story to tell. So I'm hoping that we will be able to get him by late November. And that's it for me. Thanks, everyone.
Who do they belong to? I'm not sure. Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Fatima, for all the work. And quick, thank you so much. And a quick clarification. Thank you, Takis and Kathleen. Latinos comprise 15% of Arlington. I'm dreaming of the day that we get to 30, but not yet, not today. And our last caucus update is from Charlie, who couldn't be here today. Next slide, please, Lisa. Just wondering, he wants to thank everybody who supported the Get Out the Vote efforts for our veteran candidates, and also wanted me to mention that Margot is here and she's collecting any cereal boxes as part of their AFAC drive. And before I hand the mic over, I just want to say three things that I've noticed from the caucuses, from the events they've been having. The first thing is the people that have come to the party. We've had volunteers that want to join Arlington Democrats through the events that Aepi Caucus held, through the Latino Caucus. These are people that we're starting to bridge relationships with, and it's been incredible to welcome them into the party as volunteers through these events that the caucuses are hosting. And the second thing, obviously, as we reflect on this really devastating loss, but we also think of the wins that we've experienced in Arlington. I just want to share a little bit of what I've seen through the caucuses. There's these huge, the joint campaign does all of these amazing work, but sometimes it's in the small things that happen on the day of. For example, Sangeeta was one of the last people at her polling station because there was a Republican vote counter. So she stayed until the very end, into that cold. She was in that room making sure that our votes are being counted. It's Latino Caucus reaching out to people in the community saying, hey, did you know there's an election? Working moms who couldn't find a babysitter. So members of our Arlington Democrats Latino Caucus stepping in when it mattered. I think it's those little things. It's, Mary Byrne with the rights to the polls and reaching out to Sandra and making sure we had Spanish writers that could give those rights to make sure that we were getting out every single last vote in Arlington. Where's Carol? To always think about you and say that. And I just couldn't be prouder of the caucuses, and I know this has been devastating, but I think that the work that the caucuses are doing to reach out to different communities here in Arlington, we will continue to bridge those gaps. We will continue to invite every community to participate in our elections, because that's what a democracy looks like. And I cannot, wait for us to move forward, to take the learnings and to listen to what our community is saying and to continue to build on that and to be a part of being on Arlington events, to be a part of the voter outreach events. I see so much potential, and a big, big thanks to Mike Hunter, who really put this whole operation on his back, has been there. Any text, any call, he answers it and always finds a solution. So thank you so much. Am I passing the AYD? Yes, all right, AYD, come on up.
Well, hello. Oh, I got my, okay. Well, first off, my name is Matt Royer, and it has been my distinct honor to be the AYD president for this year. First off, I would like to thank Jill and Maggie for their amazing leadership through the past 4 years under what can only be described as the toughest of times and situations, so thank you both for that. Secondly, I would like to thank my AYD board and the members of AYD who worked from January until now to get us to this point. We had almost every statewide candidate come through for the primary and speak to us. We partnered with the DCYDs for the first time to celebrate Juneteenth in June, and then we partnered with the Latino Caucus to celebrate the Hispanic Heritage Month. We raised thousands of dollars for our chapter, one chapter of the year at our Virginia convention. We knocked on 3,600 doors, made 300 calls for close to 4,000 voter contacts in 15 House districts, staffed the early voting locations, staffed the polling locations on E-Day, and helped deliver for Democrats around the Commonwealth. That's something very, very proud about. So thank you all for doing that. And lastly, I would like to thank each and one of you, every one of you, for showing up day in and day out, because giving all of yourselves to a system and environment that doesn't always repay that. And I'm in awe of those of you in this room who give way more of yourselves than politics deserves, in my opinion. Sacrificing time away from your friends and your family, your free time, your relaxation time, because the most precious thing that you can donate is your time, because you can never get that back. So thank you all for sacrificing that and making those sacrifices. I want to be very clear. Arlington delivered for our Democratic ticket. We did our damn jobs, as we're saying, right? Fairfax, Loudoun, Prince William County, Alexandria Falls Church, we delivered in the northern region for this ticket. We returned all of our delegates in the areas like we said we would. And that is just because of the incredible talent of organizers in this area who worked their asses off to make sure that happened. Not everywhere can say that they had that kind of talent and that kind of expertise in the room, but and then especially us here in Arlington, we are blessed with such great talent, people like Rose Fabia and like Josh Kaplowitz, who just give so much time to get this done. And people like, and I don't see it, but Scott McConnell, where is he at? Oh, there he is. Yeah, Scott McConnell, who's not giving himself enough credit, because not a lot of places had a field organizer for a joint campaign committee that would be able to do what he did. So thank you so much for doing that, Scott. So, this isn't a defeat. It's a wake-up call, right? And what we are waking up today is that we can't keep doing the same things and expecting the same results every single time. We can't keep doing the same thing over and over and over again. And I'm here to say that we can't keep that, and we need to reimagine how we approach these campaigns. And every year, because every single year is going to be different. Let's be honest, we ran the same playbook. This year is not 2013, it's not 2017, it's not even 2020, it's 2021. And the rules have changed, right? Glenn Youngkin, Winston Sears, and Jason Miyares were on the ballot yesterday. Trump was nowhere to be found. All right, that's who we were up against. You fight the person you are in the ring with. You do not fight the spectators. We are fighting not against one man, but a mentality right now. Then that's really what we're looking at. Donald Trump is gone, but Glenn Youngkin, unfortunately, is very much here. And we, when you're not paying attention, you get sucker punched. And that's exactly what happened. And when you don't pay attention to the people who are yelling at you to pay attention, you never see it coming. And those people who are yelling at you, I think it's time that we listen to them. The young activists, the BIPOC communities, the LGBTQ plus communities, the women, the religious minorities. Everyone who has been warning us that something was going to happen since January, those are people that we need to listen to now. I think when we say we're a Big Tent party, we shouldn't just accept the voices of support. We also have to accept the voices of dissent. And we have to learn from that and make sure that we take that and we grow. If people are telling you that there is a problem, just listen. Don't cover your ears. Don't shut them up. Don't push them out. Just listen to them. No one knows everything, and if you think you do, I promise you, you don't. A wise person says that they don't know anything, and a not wise person thinks that they know everything. So don't push those people out. Make sure that when they come with you for a problem, you bring up a chair, and you invite them to work and to fix it, because that's what we should be doing. We shouldn't be pushing people out, and that is what happened this time. But what we are not going to do is we're not going to be pointing fingers at each other, right? As they say, victory has 1,000 fathers, but defeat is an orphan. It's about accountability, and I'm pardon my French, but it's about owning your shit, right? That's really what this is. It's about, yeah, and this is all of our losses collectively. And it's easy to say if so-and-so had happened, and if this had happened, if this person had done this, it would have been different. But, okay, did you do what you could do to make it happen? That's what you gotta ask yourself. If you could sit there and say to yourself right now that you did every single thing that you possibly could to get this done, then you're fine. And you're fine with what you did, then that's okay. I personally I'm not okay with it. I still think that there's things I could have done more of. But, you know, if you're saying to yourself, if I had only done this and I had only done that, then take that feeling. Harness it. Use the shoulda, coulda, wouldas, and make a plan for next time, because now you know all of the things that you could have done, and all of those little things amount to a huge difference. So you make it into an actionable plan. That's how we end up winning last year. We looked at what happened in 2016. We said, what could we have done more of? Who could we have talked to more of? We put it into a plan, and then we got it done. And that's what we should be doing right now. As they say, don't agonize, organize. And that's what we need to be doing. And I know from experience, you learn a lot more from losing than you do from winning. And I'm going to remember this feeling for a long time. Everything that we do, every meeting we go into, every candidate we support, every election we put together, I will be carrying this weight with me to make sure that I remember. And I'm looking forward to pushing our progressive issues, creating more robust outreach strategies to all communities, listening and taking in voices to get that work done, harnessing the energy of our young folks, especially people like Mark Perlman, who is out like almost every single weekend, somehow, some way, just knocking on those doors. And you better believe that together we will be the collective thorn in Glenn Youngkin's side for the next 4 years. But it's that word, right? Collective. It takes all of us together. It's not individuals working alongside one another. It takes the togetherness to make that happen. That's what we need right now. The joy of lifting up one another to make it happen. The feeling of camaraderie and kinship, teamwork, is what makes this work lighter. We should build each other up. We don't need to be tearing people down. Don't need to shame people into doing the work, shaming people into voting. We need to invite them in, embrace them, embolden them, and let them do what they can do to get it done. Because anger motivates, fear drives, but joy sustains. And on my final note, this will be my last meeting. I didn't think I would do that. As AYD president, it has been, this wasn't the way I thought I was going to go out. It's not the way I would have chose, but it's been my honor to serve this great organization over the past 5 years. Starting as the Veterans and Foreign Affairs Caucus Chair, then as Social Media Director, then as Campaigns Director, then as Vice President, and finally as your President. It's been a tremendous pleasure to work alongside these folks to make real change, campaigning, driving to Richmond a lot. Our legislators traveling around the Commonwealth and around the country for our conventions. It's true what they say. It's true, you know, what Alfonso tells us all the time. This is a special group, and I'll miss leading the organization, but I ain't going nowhere. So. And my final note is, we may be beaten down, but we are not broken. We might have been tired yesterday, but now we're wide awake. And we got more work to do tomorrow, so let's get it done. Thank you so much.
Matt Hoyer, everybody, and the Arlington Young Democrats. Young gets it done. Let's give them a big round of applause. They did an incredible job this year, motivating our younger folks in the county to get out there and vote. I have said it many times. I said it at steering. I'm going to say it again. The Arlington Young Democrats are absolutely the most important partner of this organization in the county. Bar none, they have been there every step of the way. There has not been a single thing that I have asked them to do to support this organization that they have not said, yes, we can do it. We're going to do it so much better than you can even imagine, because we know the technology so much better than you do. I'm just really grateful to the entire organization, to Matt for his leadership over the past year. Thank you. Could not have gotten where we are, and the great result that we did get in Arlington without the Arlington Young Democrats. And I know that there are a lot of young Arlington candidates who thank you as well. All right, I'm going to keep us moving along. I think we had the AYD remarks. We're on to voting items. Before we get there, I was asked to remind folks that if you are bringing in poll bags and signs and all of the yada from election day, and you're bringing it into the office, please try to do so neatly. It's kind of a hot mess. Someone's going to have to clean it up. Someone's probably not you, but the person who is going to clean it up would greatly appreciate it if you could be a little bit neater about it. Our executive director, Howard Slug, here is saying, yes, please be neat about it. The other thing to keep in mind is that at our next meeting, we're going to let you know about a forum that we're holding on redistricting. And there's a lot of action on redistricting that's going to happen next year. So be sure to keep an eye out for that. We're looking forward to that forum. That's being led by Outreach. And I have to say, again, thank you, Mike, and thank you to Vicki and all of the caucus chairs. When I was at the Diwali event this past month, and it really did touch me. It's the sort of thing that I knew we could always do, and just to thank you for Sangeeta. Thank you. It was an amazing event. I love the signature events of the caucuses. They are always fun. I always humiliate myself by dancing impromptu. If I can do it, y'all can do it too. Please come out to our outreach events. They are terrific, and so thank you to the outreach team as well. All right, we did have to get a little bit of business done this meeting. We usually start with voting items. We ended with it because we really did feel it was important to talk about the election, to have all of the feelings, right? Hopefully you're going to walk out of this meeting maybe a little bit more uplifted than what you walked in with. There's a group of people out here still fighting for what's important every single day, and we're going to be fighting when we walk out of this room as well. For the business that we have to do, it does go to our reorganization meeting. So every 2 years, this is dry, but bear with me. Every 2 years, the state party requires all local committees to reorganize. And what that means is that we select new leadership. The state party has very strict rules about what reorganization looks like, so that all the committees more or less do the same thing. But there is some flexibility. Arlington Democrats, we do a lot of our thinking about what the reorganization meeting will look like way in advance, because we know that in the lead up to a general election, we are just pedal to the metal about the general election. And in the month or so after the general election, we're kind of collapsed on our couches as we prepare, as we sort of recover and then prepare for next year. So we do a lot of our thinking about the reorganization meeting well in advance when we adopt our bylaws, which does occur at least within 90 days of the reorganization meeting. So 3.5 years ago or so, we did a pretty fundamental change to our rules about the reorg meeting that radically opened the voting pool. So thank you for that, because that was a really important point that I ran on as chair was that we wanted to have, an expanded voting pool, and we did that when we changed the reorg rules in the bylaws about 3.5 years ago. We then executed on those rules about 2 years ago when we had a reorg, when I ran for re-election, and a number of you guys ran as well. And it works, right? We proved the concept. So the rules that we're bringing forward today for the reorg meeting that we're going to have in January reflect the thinking that we preloaded 3.5 years ago and then proved the concept of 2 years ago. Again, because we always want to make sure that when we're in election season that we're focused on it. So the reorg meeting that we're going to have in January is going to be for the 13 positions that you see, I think, on the slide behind me. This is the same slate of positions that we had 2 years ago, with one addition. Our inclusion and equity chair is an elected position. That was a decision that you all made when we added that as a standing committee to our organization. So these are the positions that are going to be on the ballot, so to speak. I hope you all run. Next slide, please. The rules that were sent out to the precinct captains and steering, which were resoundingly passed by steering last week, basically are modeled on the rules that we used 2 years ago, again successfully. And they set a filing deadline for voters in the reorganization meeting at December 27th, with a filing deadline for candidates for those positions that I just mentioned of December 10th. So this is all detailed in the rules that were approved by steering, sent out to the precinct captains. Again, I want to emphasize that these rules model very, very strongly on the rules that were passed 2 years ago when we did a lot of thinking, and then 3.5 years ago we did the bylaws change. The reorg meeting, and I want to thank Howard for his work on the reorg meeting. We are looking at it being on January 5th. That is the first Wednesday of the year. That is our first meeting of the year. As you all know, our meetings are typically the first Wednesday of the month, and so this is what the reorg meeting will be. I note that DPBA, our state party, does require that we get the reorganization done by January 15th. So it's boom, boom, boom. That's why we do the pre-thinking about the rules in advance, so we are good, we are ready to go and hit the ground hard on that. So I do want to announce that those 13 the slots that I mentioned, the 13 roles that are going to be on the ballot, are all on the ballot. And that first one, that chair of the party, that one's going to be an open race because, as many of you know, I am not running for re-election. So I hope all of you will apply for the job. As was ably said by Matt, we need fresh thinking. We need to think about what is the race that we want to run next year. What is the strategy for next year? I think it is wonderful that as a party, our tradition is that the chair only does two terms. I think let's get some new thinking in here. I'm all for it, and I'm really excited to see how the chair's race unfolds. Rest assured, I will be sticking around. I could not be more sort of energized coming out of this meeting about what we can do together into the future. But first, we got to get through the reorg meeting. So,
Right in Jill.
Oh yeah, there's no write-ins allowed. All right. So that is the sort of general gist of things. Did I leave anything out, Howard, who was the architect of the rules? I think I caught everything.
Well, it's actually 14 elected.
Oh, I'm sorry, it's 13 plus the one. Thank you. Okay. So the list was on the slide previous.
The slide's a little confusing. It says candidate filing deadline December. It's actually the candidate filing deadline is December 10th.
Yeah.
And the caucus voter registration deadline is December 27th.
That's correct. Yes, you're right. So let me restate that. I said it right, but you're right. It's wrong on the slide, but it is correct in the rules. The candidate filing deadline is December 10th. The voter registration deadline is December 27th. So we wanted to give time for people to file to run, and then to come out there and try to whip their voters to register to vote. That was the logic behind this that we talked about at length about 3.5 years ago. So Marcia, I saw your hand up. Did you have a question? You got it. Okay, I saw another hand. Question.
Yeah, I have a couple of questions. So January 5th, that's only 4 days after the holidays, and we can expect that there's going to be a lot of people traveling. COVID is not over. Our children will not be fully vaccinated by the holidays, and I'm wondering if we could move the caucus to the traditionally Saturday held caucus, and if we could also work on an electronic option.
Good question.
Are not actually inclusive, and nor do they protect a
Okay, so great points. On the point about the Saturday caucus, we have never held a reorganization meeting on Saturdays. I want to correct the record there. We always hold the reorganization meeting at our first meeting of the year, which is, as I said, normally the first Wednesday of the year. So I just want to correct the record on that. On the electronic voting, we have never held the reorganization meeting voting via electronic. I love your enthusiasm for the electronic voting. I too appreciated having that during the school board caucus, and I'm glad you liked it as much as I did. But we had to get a $50,000 grant in order to make that happen, which we were only able to do because it was a countywide elected race kind of thing, not a group, not an activist group. So that is the major difference between the two. Now you may recall that for the special election that we ran last year, we did do it electronically. Thank you, Lisa, and the tech team. It was super hard with a very closed voting pool, which is exactly what we're trying to avoid with the bylaws change that we had, where we tried to open up the voting pool as much as we can for an organization that's trying to execute this, like, you know, without blowing the budget. On the last point about COVID, I hear you. I think we're in that situation now. And we have people coming out. We have had people coming out to canvass, to poll greet, etc. We do have public health safety measures that we've put in place for our events. I really appreciate everyone following them here today, as you have with our campaign events. I feel confident that we can do the same in January in order to execute this, as we have with all of the in-person events that we've had this year, which I think we need to continue doing in order to keep moving our economy forward. So that would be my answers to your questions there. Oh, I see a couple of other hands, so let me just get to the hands. Senator Evan?
Yeah, just to clarify, this is a secret ballot, right?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Howard?
You might want to make clear who the expanded voter pool is.
It's anyone, so the expanded voting pool is the question. So it's any person in Arlington who's willing to say, hey, I'm a Democrat, effectively. Like that's basically what the expanded voting pool is. And that is a giant change from where we were 4 years ago, where it was about 150 people. So it's up to the candidates to recruit folks to come vote for them. Other than, of course, we're going to send out emails, and I hope people sign up. But truly, it could be any number of people who are willing to come and vote, and that's the big change. I think I saw a hand over here. Yep, yeah.
Joe, I'm reading that to be eligible to vote, there's a $25 meeting fee, and it says it can be waived under certain circumstances. Every position that I've held had some sort of fee, but then it was always waived. I'm wondering if across the board for all of these elections, you can just wipe out the fee, because we all give, I'm sure we all give to the party. So to have a fee, that sounds almost like a poll tax.
A little bit. I think that's a fair point. Two things. First, the bylaws call for it, so we have to be a little bit careful what we do here today in terms of our rules. But again, we will re-adopt bylaws within 90 days of the reorg meeting itself, and that could be reconsidered. For now, that we have this in the bylaws, I think we have to stick with it in the rules. But the waiver is yes, the waiver has always been granted when anyone has ever come forward with a waiver that it's been asked. I will say that the reason that the $25 fee is in there, going back to that 3.5 years ago discussion, is because there is a concern that by opening up the voter pool, that we could be inviting trolls. So the Republican Party could come in and try to mess with our elections. As you know, as Arbora, I think, rightly said, like we can't put it past them, like knives out, right? And we need to respond in kind. So the thought process is that the $25 is a bit of a barrier to entry, but it's important, I think, to note that there are automatic waiver categories that are built into the bylaws and reflected in the rules that basically say if you've done a certain type or amount of sweat equity that we can identify, you're automatically waived. I totally agree with you. If you've been a precinct captain, as I know you have been in Ashton Heights, it's waived. If you've been a precinct leader, as I know you have, it's waived. If we can meet certain different, if you are in a category that we can say, yup, this person worked hard to deliver that margin in Arlington that we saw yesterday, waived. Because you're a Democrat and that's all that counts for this meeting. But if we don't know you at all, then we start to look a little bit closer. And it is a way for us to sort of pause and say, like, are you messing with us or are you a Democrat? And if you're a Democrat, right, and you need a waiver, granted. Right? So that's sort of the logic behind it. And that's how we operated it 2 years ago. And already in the rules, we made it, one major adjustment that we made is that if you have a financial burden based on COVID, waived, right? Absolutely. And where we've done waivers in the past is someone can show financial need and Democrat, wait, as far as I'm concerned. So we're not looking to make money off of this thing at all, but we are looking to make sure that we're smart about this, and that while we open up our meeting, we make sure our vote, we make sure we're not going to get messed with, right? So that's what it's about, bottom line for me, that we're not going to get messed with. Okay, other questions? I think these are good questions. Yep.
Okay, so your rationale was that we've always done it this way.
No, I mean, we did change it radically 3.5 years ago.
But that was 3.5 years ago. We are now in 2021.
Mm-hmm.
As the young president said, we can't keep doing the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
We've got to think outside the box. We've got to change it up. If we want to be inclusive, a Saturday caucus is a good way to get more participation. There are electronic means that don't cost $50,000. You use OPA vote, you can do other, technological ways of doing that. And I don't think that, I'm kind of shocked that this is happening. You said that you guys have been looking at this ahead of time. Why do you only get the rules on Monday night? And someone had a coordinating meeting and still not getting ready. So we spent the last 2 hours talking about the past, and I feel like we're trying to rush this bill through. This is on the future. So I would like to have a better discussion about why it can't be on a Saturday at a reasonable time, because it's going to take a long time. It's 2 hours and 15 minutes, and we, haven't made any decisions about the future. So having a vote, 2 meetings actually, is going to take longer than that. Are you planning to be here until midnight on January 5th?
I mean, if necessary, we would do that, right, in order to allow people to vote. I see a couple of other hands up, so I want to make sure we get to everybody. I saw Craig and then Daniel.
I think there's a bylaw issue that can be overcome by any sort of action tonight. This plan comports, as I read it, as I understand it, as a successful spirit with the bylaw. Moving dates around like this, as wonderful as they may be, simply do not comply with the bylaw.
So can you explain that to me? The bylaws say we have to have it on the first Wednesday of January?
No, but if you go to the bylaws, there's a certain organizational procedure. I think it's also in the state plan.
Who's got the bylaws?